Hey, hello to everybody who's joining us live. Welcome to Ask Autoline. This is where I do my best to try to answer as many questions as possible from you, anything automotive. And we can talk about that ugly Rolls-Royce crossover that was just shown, the Cullinan, I think it's called. We could talk about, is Tesla going to go bankrupt in the next year or so? What's going to be going on there? But let me talk for a little bit, and I'll entertain any questions as they come in. But what we've promoted right here, right now, is robots, cobots too, what they call collaborative robots. Are they going to take everyone's job away? That seems to be the talk in the popular press these days, is that robots are going to take all the jobs. But I got to tell you, I just finished shooting a show, our television show, Autoline, this week. That's why I'm in a coat and tie. I always wear it for that show, where I talk with 3 robotics experts. And far from robots stealing jobs, they see them creating jobs at the same time. In fact, a lot of value added jobs where you have much higher skills to program those robots, higher skills to maintain those robots. So some are just not going to see jobs go away. In many cases, they're going to see jobs created. Let's see. Rich Arenas wrote in to say, hey, John, hello there, Rich. And we welcome all of you to ask any kind of questions that have got anything to do with automotive. But back to the robots for a moment. Really interesting new level of robots coming into plants these days. I talked about it a little bit, what they call cobots or collaborative robots. These are robots that can work right next to people on the line and help them do things, usually things that are moving stuff around that's heavy or extremely precision work, anything that's dirty included in that. And these robots are fairly inexpensive. I mean, they still cost tens of thousands of dollars, but they do a lot of work right next to people, because if the robot's moving around and it gets in your way, you just hold your hand out and you can stop it. You don't have to cage these robots off, because some of those kinds of robots that get caged off are also dangerous. So anyway, looks like robots are not going to be taking over the kind of jobs, at least in the automotive plants, like some in the media have been talking about. Okay, let's see. Do we have any? Oh yeah, Mike from San Francisco wrote in. He says, Rolls-Royce just introduced their $340,000 Cullinan SUV. Does this mean Cadillac has room to grow and develop a CUV or SUV that's more expensive than the Escalade? Well, you bet they do. I think Cadillac could go upscale, but they got to be careful. I don't think that they could go from a top of the line Escalade today, which is about $100,000, to north of $300,000. They'd have to do it in steps, and it would have to be something very special. You can't just throw on a bunch more leather and chrome and some other technology and expect to be able to triple the price of a vehicle that you've got. But I could see the next step for Cadillac being going from $100,000 to somewhere in the $130,000 to $150,000 range. I could absolutely see them doing that if it was the right vehicle and was not just a modified Escalade. It'd have to be something rather special. And we'll give it a few more minutes here to see if we get any more questions coming in. And I got to believe there's people out there that are still interested in why Ford has cut all its cars, the trials and tribulations that Tesla is going through right now, the big question marks with automated, autonomous vehicles, and a whole bunch of other things that are out there in the industry. And we're not getting anywhere. So, oh, here we go. Don Miller says, how high are gas prices going to go? They'll go up a bit more, Don. I mean, OPEC is doing its best work possible to try to get oil prices as high as they can. You look at what's going on in the Middle East right now. Today's news of what's happening in Israel is not good. The Israelis just bombed part of Syria. Now Iran's all ticked off. Oil prices are going up because of that. However, there's a lot of oil in the world. In the past, the things that I just mentioned would have sent prices soaring well over $100 a barrel, maybe to $150 a barrel. It hasn't happened, and that shows you that there's so much supply out there right now that Prices will go up, but not a whole lot higher. And once everything settles down, they'll probably come back down again. Rich Arenas wants to know, is the car situation at Ford as big of a problem as it seems? Look, it's not that it's a problem, and this is only happening in the U.S. market. Ford is not getting rid of its passenger cars in other markets. The problem in the U.S. is that people are walking away from cars and going to crossovers, SUVs, and pickups. And because of that, sales of passenger cars are coming down. I want to say last month, sales fell by 100,000 units, passenger cars. So Ford is finding it real hard to make money on those cars, and that's why it's getting out of it. Let's see. Rob P says, are we still on track for a self-driving car in the market in 2020, level 4 or level 5? Yeah, we are, Rich, but it's probably not going to be something that you and I could run out and buy at a dealership. The first autonomous cars, whether it's level 4 or level 5, and I'll get into that in a second, are going to be run by companies like Uber and Lyft and Maven and maybe even Waymo and others who are getting into it. And they're going to be in geo-fenced areas. That is, they're only going to operate in a certain metropolitan area. They're mostly going to be in areas of low speed limits. So if you look at what Waymo's doing in Phoenix right now, you can sign up and have an autonomous Chrysler Pacifica come pick you up and take you anywhere within 600 square miles. As they move those geo-fence posts out, it will soon spread over the course of a decade across the country. But that's where it's going to happen first. And getting back to this level 4 or level 5, very interestingly, companies like Waymo and Ford Motor Company have said, we don't like level 4 at all. We don't like the idea of a car being in autonomous mode. And then we have the handoff to the driver. The handoff scares the hell out of them because the driver could be asleep or distracted or who knows doing what. So Waymo and Ford have said level 5 is the only way that they're going to go. Jews are the synagogue of Satan. What the hell is this about? Why are all the automakers using so much electronic tech and making autos with pre-programmed failures so vehicles do not last more than 10 or 15 years without major technical problems? Hey, guess what? Cars wear out. Nobody's built a car that's going to go forever and ever. The average car today is over 11 years old. That's pretty good. That's the longest it's ever been in history. So I don't buy your handle for one thing. It sounds stupid to me. And your question is ridiculous. Okay, Rob P. back. What's the future of Ford ST vehicles? Expedition ST. Rob, I don't think it's good. In fact, when I'm done here, I'm running out to the Ford store. I'm not making this up. I'm looking at buying a Fiesta ST because I like the car so much and it's going to go away. But, Fiesta ST is going away. Focus ST is going away. Taurus SHO is going away just because those cars are going away. The only performance vehicles are going to be Mustang and, like you said, Expedition, Explorer, and all that. Ford GT will only go away once it's reached its full product cycle, and that was in the plans even before Ford announced it was getting out of cars. So sad to say that some of the stuff is going away. Don Miller says, let's go down a bit more there, Katie, thank you. Over under on Tesla building 5,000 Model 3s by June 30th. Yeah, Don's asking about, are they going to hit 5,000 a week? Elon Musk has said he's going to hit 5,000 a week at the end of the second quarter. There's a lot of analysts who believe he's going to hit that number only because they're going to pre-assemble, but not fully assemble, a bunch of vehicles, and then they're going to run them through that last week so he can get out there and claim that he hit 5,000. I personally do not believe that Tesla is going to hit 5,000 a week on a consistent basis. I hope they prove me wrong. I'd love to see them prove me wrong, but right now at this snapshot in time, I just don't buy it. Let's see, what else am I going to read? Jews are the synagogue of Satan. I'm not reading your questions. This is stupid stuff to me. We'll stick to good automotive discussions. Rich Arenas back saying, I'm considering getting a 2007 Boxster base. Do you think it's a good idea? Yeah, I do. I love that car. I think It's a blast to drive. It all comes down to the car that you're getting. Did somebody beat it bad? So make sure that you do an inspection. If you don't feel comfortable that you're good enough to do it, take it to your favorite mechanic. Go through this thing thoroughly. Make sure that they weren't autocrossing it every single weekend. But if it's a clean car, it's at a good price with not too many miles on it, I think it's a great way to go. What a fun vehicle that is. Bryant Monroe wants to know, how soon do you think Lincoln will come out with some sort of self-driving technology? Well, you could argue that their self-parking technology, which I think, in my experience, is the best in the business right now. That's a little bit of self-driving, but I know what you're getting at. Look, some of the systems that are out there right now don't impress me at all. These adaptive cruise control that do some steering on their own, I don't like them, because you got to keep your hands on the steering wheel at all times. And so what's the value of having a system that can drive the car on its own, but forces you to keep your hands on the steering wheel? Another thing about these systems is they're always nibbling at the wheel. They're always making a lot more adjustments, even going straight down the road, than a normal driver does. And I find them very annoying. I turn it off. Now, the one system I've experienced that I really like a lot is Cadillac's Super Cruise. You can drive with your arms on the armrest. You do have to pay attention, but it's actually a very nice driving experience. That's the only one I like so far. Bob and our Auto 123 says, do you think manufacturers would sell more hybrids if they make them as MPG improvement packages on normal cars? Yeah, I do, Bob. I've said this before, that one of the problems with hybrids is people don't want to go around telling their friends and neighbors that they drive a hybrid. They feel like they're making a political statement. And in today's political climate, most folks are uncomfortable doing that. Now, the only thing with your suggestion here that could be a little bit of an issue is if you want to convert a car into a strong hybrid, like Toyota's done with the Prius, it adds about $3,000 cost. Even if you're going with a 48-volt hybrid, it's adding over $1,000, maybe $1,200. So I'm not sure the public is quite willing to pay that much money to save on fuel economy. Not with gas prices like they are in the US. In other countries, yeah, they'd be more willing to pay that, especially in Europe where it's $7 a gallon. Then you can get the kind of payback. Don Miller's back. What's the latest from Toyota producing a battery EV? Last I read 2022 plus. Why so far away? Well, look, Toyota put all its eggs in the hybrid basket. And that's gone reasonably well for them. They sell more hybrids by far than anybody else in the world. In Japan, they believe that the future is really with hydrogen fuel cells. And so Toyota and Honda, for example, have put a lot more effort into fuel cells. In fact, only a few years ago, Toyota was poo-pooing the idea of a battery electric vehicle. They didn't think it was the future, but with the way things are going, especially with regulations, battery electrics are the reason that Toyota's been slow to the market with one. But another thing, they've been hinting that when they do come to the market, they might have a solid state battery. Maybe they've been waiting for a breakthrough in the battery, and that's one reason why they've been so slow in bringing an EV to market. Although, remember, they did have one that Tesla developed for them. They had an electric RAV4, but it was expensive. It was like over $50,000, and of course, it didn't sell very well. Let's see here. Rob P says there are a lot of used e-Golfs, 500Es, and other all-electrics in the used car market in California. A used e-Golf makes an interesting, cheap grocery getter. Thoughts? Longevity of the batteries? I think used EVs are a screaming deal. The resale value of them is junk. I mean, they don't hold their value at all because not many people want to buy them. And to your point, they're afraid of what if the batteries go out? Now I got a $10,000 repair bill or worse. But so far, most of these batteries have proven to be extremely robust. So yeah, if you're comfortable with an electric car, if you're comfortable with an electric car that only has maybe about 70 miles of range, I'm telling you, those used EVs are a screaming deal for the right person. They're the best deal out there. Frost says, I look at a plug-in hybrid as an insurance policy against gas spikes. Good thought. I also get the cheap EV driving and the ease of long-range trips in one vehicle. Yeah, I mean, that's the best of both worlds in a strong hybrid. You can go on electric power, and if you got to go long distance, you got the gasoline engine to get you there. Ben Dover says, how does Chrysler keep relevant besides the Pacifica? A brand new 300 or another attempt to mid-size cars, or just stick out to the model that Dodge's cars and trucks, Chrysler for van, Fiat for small cars? Okay, so you're probably asking about the Chrysler brand, not just the Chrysler company. I'm sure I'm getting that right. There is a new 300 coming next year. Towards the end of next year, there will be an all-new Chrysler 300 on an FCA platform. They're no longer going to use that old Mercedes platform that it's been on. And look, FCA has been putting a lot of investment into Alfa Romeo and into Maserati. As they fill up those lines, I think you're going to see more investment go back into Dodge, which really could use an all-new Journey as an example, and into Chrysler, which needs more vehicles in its lineup. Shara Gog says Tesla's warranty is 8 years. That's a pretty good warranty. That takes away a lot of anxiety over people buying an electric car. Rich Arena says, does the Ford downsizing in the U.S. have anything to do with the current administration's policies, and will it affect employment? I don't think Ford's reacting to the Trump administration in cutting cars. It all comes down to the fact that it was losing money on all those cars. That's why it's keeping the Mustang, because it can make money on that car. I'm sure it was making money on the Taurus, but it had to invest in an all-new Taurus. And they were not going to make any return on that money, or next to nothing. So why invest $1 billion if you're not going to make a return? You have to go and invest that money someplace else where you will make a return. That's what the Ford story is all about. Sharagog says the Volt sucks. I don't agree with that. I think the Volt is a pretty good car. If you want a pure battery electric, I understand why you don't want a plug-in. But hey, the Volt's a pretty good car. Rob P says, Miami Formula One GP in 2019, ? Will you be attending? Probably not 2019, maybe, because remember, Miami has not even approved it. They got all the votes to go ahead with it. And in fact, it was a unanimous approval to go ahead, but nothing's concrete yet. But would I go? Yeah, I think Miami's a fun town to be, and to watch a Formula One race there would be pretty cool. Monday Fool says, just want to thank you for these shows. Thank you for that. We're trying our best. We're still in the experimental stage. This is not nailed down yet. We're getting better and better at these things. David Goldfelty says, hey, I own the TM3, and while I love it, the used Volt is a better deal. Oh, really? Tesla Model 3, and he says the Volt's a better deal, and the batteries really hold up. Best for novices to electric. That's a great suggestion, David. You know, if you're not ready to go completely battery electric, a plug-in is a great way to see if you really like that. Because if you plug in every night, you'll probably be able to go on pure electric power the entire time. So good suggestion there. I like that. Frost says, my 2018 Volt is probably the most solid and reliable GM car ever. And I'm sure it's better than just a GM car in that statement. Everybody I've talked to says either the first gen Volt or the second gen is the best car that they've ever owned. Frost says, problem with the Volt is interior space. LOL, it's big on the outside and small on the inside. Yeah, that's a problem. You know, those batteries, there's a lot of them that eat up space. So you probably don't have as much interior room in a Volt as you do in a Chevy Cruze. Sharagog is back to say, why is no other major automaker using Tesla batteries? That's a great question, Shara. Tesla is the only one, you know, it started out with the 18650s. Now they're using the 2170s. And the reason they did that is, you know, it was Martin Eberhard, the guy who really created Tesla, who said, hey, if manufacturing scale is what counts, Panasonic and others already make millions of the 18750s, and that's why he went that way. But here's why other automakers don't go that way. You have zillions of those little cells, and each one of them has to be wired up in series and in parallel, and it's a manufacturing headache. So virtually everybody else has gone with the prismatic batteries, which I like to describe as they look like TV dinners. They're these little aluminum foil covered pouch kind of things. But good question there. And I'm surprised that no other automaker has taken up Tesla on its offer to say, hey, we'll give you all of our patents for free. Go ahead, go use them, because it wants to sell them, the battery packs. Why nobody's taken them up on that, I don't know. Yeah, sure, Gogs, you're pointing that out of what Tesla did. Nathan Berliner says, is the Subaru Ascent going to move the markets or just be another large SUV? Well, it's going to move the market for Subaru. You can be sure of that. That's the one gaping hole in their lineup is a full-size 3-row SUV. I'll bet they sell that like there's no tomorrow. So is it going to move the SUV market? I don't think so, but I believe it is going to be a huge win for Subaru, both from a sales standpoint and from a profit standpoint. Let's see. Arno Schmidt says the Smart Electric 1 generation used Tesla batteries. Oh, yeah, good point. I'm glad you pointed that out. But they didn't stick with it. And I think that's the point is that, even if some other automakers use the Tesla pack, I mentioned the Toyota RAV4 that Tesla did for them, nobody else is investing in using the 2170s. Anthony Brown says, have watched Autoline for decades, still relevant, still must see content. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Anthony. Really appreciate that kind of feedback. Ben Dover's back asking, are any other car companies looking to drop sedans as well, foreign or domestic? I'll bet we see it happen. Maybe not to the extent that Ford and FCA have done. But look, General Motors is going to get rid of some of its passenger cars. They already announced the ATS sedan is going away. My guess is the Chevrolet Impala will not be renewed. Probably the Spark and the Sonic are not going to survive. So I'm sure other automakers are going to look back. Remember, just in 2016 and 2017, in the U.S. market, passenger car sales dropped by 1.4 million cars. That's a staggering drop. We've never seen the bottom fall out of a segment like this before. So the writing's on the wall. And as I mentioned, last month, they fell by another 100,000 units. So it looks like the rate of descent might even be increasing. So yeah, we will see other automakers get out, but I don't think they're going to go cold turkey like Ford's announced. Let's see. Rob P says, market trends. Trucks have gotten bigger over the years and more expensive. Sedans are moving to crossovers. What's the next big thing after trucks and crossovers? Great question, Rob. If I had to guess, and I guess I am guessing, station wagons. I think station wagons could be the next hot thing because they give you almost all the versatility that you get in a crossover. They're not nearly as big as an SUV. They're a different design silhouette. So they look different than what's out there. So you can have almost all the capabilities of a crossover and not look like what everybody else is driving. So we'll see what happens. Right now, the wagons are pretty expensive by and large, but Volkswagen's got one out there that's reasonable in the Jetta, but we'll see what happens. My guess is station wagons are the next hot thing. Monday Fool says 18650 batteries are great for small volume and prototypes. Excellent quality and flexibility. In large volumes, I expect pouch cells to be far cheaper. Very interesting point. Very interesting point. I love talking to you guys in the audience. I love the knowledge that you have there. Shrim Compter says, will we ever see an electric SUV in the similar price range of a Model 3? Most affordable electric cars are small. Yeah, because the batteries are still horrifically expensive. Remember, the Chevrolet Bolt has a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack. The cost of that is $12,500. This is why the new Nissan Leaf only comes with 150 miles range. They put in less batteries to shave off the cost. So the big thing is, how do we get the cost of the batteries down? And, we can't look for even good improvements. We need breakthroughs. Even if GM made a good improvement with the Chevrolet Bolt, let's say they took the battery pack from $12,000 to $8,000. It's still $8,000. So we need a breakthrough to get these things on the same cost as an internal combustion engine. And just to give you an idea, I have a very good source at Ford who told me their 2-liter engine made in Dearborn, Michigan, with UAW labor is $1,200. $1,200. Now that doesn't include the transmission or the electronic engine controller and all that. I'm just talking the base engine. But that's the kind of cost target that you're going to have to hit. Okay, we'll take a few more here. Bob Narauto 123 says the rumor is to use Tesla patients. The other company would need to use these. I don't get this. The rumor is to use Tesla patients. The other company would need to let Tesla use these patients. Bob, you're going to have to rephrase the question. I don't get it. Let's see. Back to Anthony Brown. Are we seeing a glut in global automotive production? Who of the manufacturers may be the biggest loser in the next economic downturn? Anthony, I think we're headed to a world where we don't need as many cars. Not right around the corner, but in another decade or so, with all this ride sharing, ride hailing, on-demand shuttles and the like, I think we're not going to need as many cars. Not everyone agrees with me. A lot of people do. So to answer your question, the biggest car companies, they're going to get hurt the most. The bigger they are, the harder their fall. And what they now call manufacturing scale will turn into excess production capacity. Frost says, I'm surprised wagons aren't a thing because you could get the MPG of a Volt and maybe even a third row seat. Yeah, that's another reason why I am bullish on station wagons. Andy G says, can there be station wagons when the sedans they are based on might be killed off? Andy, don't worry about that because everyone's going to crossovers. And what are crossovers? They're built on passenger car platforms. They use passenger car powertrains. The interiors are fitted out with the exact same components that go into the passenger cars. So all a crossover is a passenger car with a different hot top hat on it, a different body, and it's raised up a little bit. Other than that, they're a passenger car. But that's what the public wants. And the public will pay more money for them, anywhere from 10 to 20% more. So a Ford Motor Company that cannot make any profit on a Focus can absolutely make a profit on a Ford EcoSport. Bend over. Favorite wagon of all time? I personally own a 94 Chevy Caprice Classic 5.7 V8. My all-time favorite is the 1971 Ford LTD station wagon. That's what I grew up learning to drive in. That's how I learned to do four-wheel drifts. That's how I learned to do handbrake turns. That's how I learned to drive in the snow and on dirt roads in a big honking station wagon. So that's my favorite all time, just because I learned how to drive in one of them. Let's see. Shiragaga's back to say major automakers have too big of egos to use Tesla batteries. It leaves the window open for new car companies to come in and play. Tesla is also looking to open its supercharger to other EVs. Yeah, sure. I know where you're coming from, but I don't think any of the other startups are using the 18650s or 2170s. Maybe somebody else out there. What's Lucid Motors using? What's Faraday Future? What's SF Motors using? What are the others? My guess is they're not using the 2170s, but I don't know that for a fact. Maybe one of you guys have the answer. Anthony Brown says, love this format. Please keep doing this type of format. It works. Thanks for the feedback. I like that a lot. Carpat Zoltan says, maybe they should make ICE cars more expensive instead of making EVs cheaper. Look, it's all about making money. And if you raise prices, fewer people will buy them. And the only reason that they're making EVs right now today, because literally from a cost standpoint, the technology is not ready unless you're at the upper price ranges. So it's all about making money, and they're not going to raise the price of their internal combustion engine cars just to be able to lower the prices of EVs. Okay, Gary Morehouse says, hey, John, kudos. Where's the next hybrid Ford Flex with the Acades range extender? I love that question. Look, I think Ford's going to kill off the Flex. I don't think they're going to renew it. They don't sell that many anymore, maybe 2,000 a month or something like that. And the Acades engine, my guess is if a major manufacturer like a Ford or a GM or a Toyota or a Honda or whoever goes with that engine, it's going to be in a pickup truck. That's where it would package the most. That's where it would have the most impact on fuel economy. I mean, what if you could get 39 miles to the gallon combined in an F-150? Wow. That would be your best insurance policy against any kind of gas price hike. So I think they're going to go in pickups first, if that even happens, though. Okay, Bob Naraudo is back. The rumor is to use Tesla patents. The other companies would need to let Tesla use their patents. Not necessarily. Car companies do trade patents back and forth or let another automaker use it, sometimes in a trade or sometimes to collect royalties. But I mean, it was a couple of years ago that Elon Musk came out and said, hey, anybody that wants to use our patents can do so. And no one's taken him up on it. Gary Morehouse back. P.S. John, the batteries like TV dinners comment is only appreciated by guys our age. That's true. Not many people these days probably know what a TV dinner is. So thank you for pointing that out, Gary. Rich Reyna says, damn, 71 LTD, nice. Yeah, it was a great car, let me tell you. Rob P. say, what was the most overhyped and underdelivered automotive trend in your career? Plastic fenders, flex fuel, wood paneling. I'd have to say flex fuel. Look, I was a big flex fuel proponent. It never happened. The car companies went whole hog on it because the corn lobby got regulations written in that if you built a flex fuel car, you got great fuel economy credits. I can't remember. It was like if you got 1 credit for a car, if it was flex fuel, you got 1.5 credits. So they offered all these flex fuel vehicles that never ran on flex fuel. It was probably the biggest disappointment I've run across. But great question. I really like that. No one's asked me that before. Let's see. David Glofelt, he says, check out Jack Rickard on YouTube. Has a great breakdown of the Tesla Model 3 battery. Very cool. Okay, thanks for that. I will check that out. Jack, I'm just going to call you Zach because I'm going to butcher your name. Thank you for the great program. Is coming from Tesla Fanboy. Well, thanks for that, Zachary. I make fun of the Tesla fanboys because they make fun of me. But even though I criticize Tesla, and you guys know I criticize Tesla a lot, I really want them to succeed. I think it would be awesome for a company to come in and disrupt the automotive industry, especially an American company, especially a high-tech Silicon Valley one. But my gut feel is they've done a lot of things wrong. I hope they survive. But anyway, thanks for the feedback there. Anthony Brown saying, what was the hardest show you have ever done? The panel with Robert Farrago was epic. Yeah, it was. That wasn't a hard show. I've had some other hard shows. I'm not going to name names because, I invite people into my house to do the shows. And I'm not going to name names that, they weren't that good of a guest. I've had very few, though, I got to tell you. For the most part, I learn a lot from the people who come on my shows. I get to ask them questions that I want to have answered, and that's why I really do these shows. Okay, we're only going to take a few more, and then I'm going to have to get going. But Andy G says, the next Explorer in the spy photos, Aviator platform made, looks lower and longer than the current one. Maybe it replaces the Flex 2? Good question, Andy. Whether Ford keeps the Flex name, I'm not so sure they're going to do that. So I don't have a good answer for you on that one. But you make a good point. If they are going to keep the Flex, that would be the platform to put it on. Monday Fool says, what ideas are there in the industry for offsetting the battery cost? Tesla through performance and autopilot to get the hype going and get people to forget the price, and it kind of worked. Look, here's what people are working on to get the cost of the batteries down. Number one is scale. if you build a factory to make this stuff, the more batteries you can make, the more you can amortize or spread that cost out, and that brings batteries cost down. They're looking for batteries that can be more energy dense, so you can put a smaller pack in there. They're looking at using new materials, but the big thing that everybody's working on right now is what they call solid state batteries. So instead of having an electrolyte that's a fluid, it's solid state. And based on what I've read and based on some of the people that I've interviewed, the cost reductions could be significant. Okay, we got a lot coming in. I'm going to take one more here. D Mental says, as automakers begin to look some drooling towards India as the new China, do you think India, given their population and economic situation, is better suited for mobility services? Yeah, I do. And that's a great point, D Mental. It's kind of like how China got into telephones. They went straight to wireless sets. And so why build this massive infrastructure for 1.3 billion people in India to go out and buy a car? Why not go straight into mobility services? I've never been to India, but everybody who's been there has told me that the congestion is horrific. So if you think it's bad now, wait until you start throwing millions of more cars on the road. So yeah, I think you're right. I think the best way for India to go will be with mobility services, and that will probably happen. Okay, Katie's telling me one more. How do you keep up with all the industry trends? I think your perspective is still fresh, and I've been here since the early years. Anthony, I got the best job in the world. I do a television show every single week. I do Autoline After Hours, our live webcast, every single Thursday. We bring in some of the best people in the industry. I'm based in Detroit, so we get a lot of Detroit people, but we get people from all over the world. We go to a lot of the major auto shows. We go to all kinds of conferences. So how do I keep up on it? I get to interview the best and brightest in the industry. It's not that I'm smart. I have access to the smartest people, and I get to talk to everybody from all different parts of the industry. So while my knowledge can be shallow, it's extraordinarily broad just because of the nature of my job. But thank you for that question. And look, folks, I know more are coming in, but I got work to do elsewhere here too. And I want to go check out a Ford Fiesta ST. I'm interested in buying one. So thank you for tuning in to Ask Autoline. We'll be doing this more because even though we're still in the experimental stage, the feedback has been very good.